stage is where your journey begins. Our shelves are stacked high where the magic never ends. From dice that roll true to tomes ancient and wise, we've got all the essentials for your game to arise. With adventure in mind, we craft every piece to make your campaigns flourish, your stories increase. For every TTRPG dream, our stock is refined. Come find your next quest, leave the mundane behind.
Epic stages, where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic stages, where legends find traction.
Online store's a wonderland, easy to explore, with service that shines whether in person or more. Need advice on your journey? We're here to assist. For novice and veteran, no wish will be missed. We've got what you need from the basic to the grand, to bring your world to life with a masterful hand. From maps that expand to characters that bind, Epic Sages, always with adventure in mind.
Epic Stages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction.
Your game with custom pieces so fine, handcrafted with care, designed to make you shine. From miniature heroes to landscapes vast, we build every detail to make the magic last. When the final dice is rolled and the journey is done, we offer keepsakes that remind me of the battles you won. In every treasure we offer, memories are signed. Epic Sages, always with adventure in mind.
Epic Stages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction. Epic Stages is where you find satisfaction. We bring the spark, you bring the passion. We control the board, you control the action. Epic Stages, where legends find traction.
Hello. Welcome to tonight's podcast, episode 5, season 5, episode 5. Brain fart over here. Getting into nostalgia. How to do that right. You know, was it really the best? All that fun stuff. We're joined by 3 fantastic star guests. First, I'm going to introduce our returning player, in this case, from the other side of our fun stuff, Mr. Beaker. Chuck, could you please introduce yourself and all that fun stuff? Who you are, where you're at, who you represent tonight, all that fun stuff?
Oh, man. Let's see. You're going to have to... This will be interesting. So, okay, yeah. I'm Beaker. Chuck, whatever you want to call me, that's fine. Typically what I'm doing on a regular weekly basis with the Tabletop Misfits, let's see, we have a weekly tavern talks where we communicate and discuss with game masters on what they're doing and skills and tips that they can give out to everybody. On Thursdays I build Gunpla and paint minis, which is kind of fun. And then let's see what else we've got. Our other D&D show, Dress to Quest, and we're working on the One Ring game. We're going to have one of those starting up at the end of the month. Matter of fact, we're going to announce cast like next week, so woohoo for us. Aside from that, when I'm not doing streaming, I am a corrosion engineer. So, woohoo! I deal with paint and rust and all that fun stuff.
Decay. It'll go well with tonight's topic. Where can people find you if they're looking for you?
You can find me on Twitch at the Tabletop Misfits Twitch channel. Instagram at Beaker Builds. That's B. We'll spell it later. It's not with an E. It's a 3.
It's on the screen. B3ak3r or just
R.
3R.
Yeah, it just builds. Yeah, that's on Instagram. Tabletop Misfits on Instagram as well. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to move on to our other 2 fantastic guests, starting with Kay. Kay, who are you? What you do?
Hi.
All that fun stuff.
Well, as you said, my name is Kay. I was am working as a business strategist, but I'm in the midst of a transition and evolution. And so I can't really speak to where I'm heading because it's still being defined. So I'm kind of in the unknown right now as far as like what I'm doing currently. But a couple things about me. I live in Montana at the moment, and I am excited to be a part of this community for a minute here and be a guest here. I'm a theater kid and have lots of friends that are gamers and into all the things you guys are talking about and doing. So I think it's really exciting and cool to be here tonight.
Well, fantastic. We're super happy to have you here. Where can people find you if they're looking for you? I know you're mid transition,
At the
but
moment, my handle yeah, at the moment, my handles are Consulting K because it's from the remnants of what I was doing before, and I'm still helping some people in some capacities, in that transition phase. So it'll stay that way for now, and then when I have more defined, it'll change, I'm sure. But yeah, that's it for now. I think that's probably the easiest way to find me rather than my website. So
okay, easy peasy lemon squeezy. And moving on, last but definitely not least, Natalia.
Hi, nice to meet everyone. My name is Natalia. I am an entrepreneur. I actually own an accounting firm. Been in business for 6 years. Single mom, and I built the business when I started at 50 years old. So you're never too late to start. We do a lot of CFO advisory services. So I actually can figure out all the numbers and the patterns and see what really works in scaling and building businesses. And that's actually my biggest passion. And I'm a little bit of a workaholic, but I love being an entrepreneur. Wish I had started a long time ago because it's amazing. Very hard, but amazing.
Be there, understand wholeheartedly. So, jumping into tonight's topic, right? So, the better days, right, is the title, and I like to always ask our guests when we first get on. When I say the title, right? So, the better days. What is the first thing that comes to mind? And we're gonna start with Natalia because we ended with you last time. We'll kind of go back and forth.
The better days. Definitely, I think a little bit quieter. I was actually around before the internet, before computers. I remember DOS. That was happening while I was in college. So it's been, I'm a little older. It's been a while. But I really kind of miss, I love social media. I love the internet. I love Zoom. I love all the stuff, all the things. I think that we're really living in the best possible time that we possibly could be living in. But at the same time, I kind of liked the quietness of no one knowing what you actually did, and no one like being able to pull out their phone and start videotaping you if you're doing something stupid. So I'm actually glad that that was not the case when I was growing up because I was pretty bad.
Okay, good to know. All right, Kate, what about you? When I say the better days, what comes to mind?
Two things that are, I think, very different from each other. But I actually think of high school. Most of the time, college is like people's like good old days. But for me, it was actually high school, even though high school sucked. But there was elements of it that I do find myself thinking about often and reminiscing on. And so the nostalgia comes up in that way. And then I also, as far as better days, I also think about like different versions of myself. And like one thing I miss from when I was younger is how easy it was to daydream. And I just like the creativity just felt a lot more accessible when you're younger, when play is more involved, and just having more time to dream, I guess. And so I kind of miss that and been trying to incorporate that back in. But when I think of the good old days, I think about how easy it was and how I just lived in my head all the time, and had all these, pretend conversations and stuff just for fun. I guess I don't know, I sound crazy, but I was fairly young. And then yeah, high school and the theater. I used to do theater, so I feel like high school is when I really started to define more of who I was, and so I was starting to anchor that in a little bit, and so just seemed a little more simple back then.
And not paying rent when you're living with your parents is always a bonus, right?
Yes,
And
for
that's what I
sure.
miss the most.
Yeah.
Dang. Housing is expensive, y'all. But just as a shout out, because it sounds like you would benefit thoroughly from hanging out in this community for longer than a minute. If you were trying to find your imagination, this place is full of people who can exercise that muscle for you. Speaking of people that can
Oh
exercise
yeah,
that
for
muscle,
sure.
Speaker, when we talk about the better days, what are
Uh,
we talking about for you?
oh, man, it's when I knew less about the world. Quite honestly, um, it's the whole ignorance is bliss, right? Um, you, I kind of go back to the period of when I was like my daughter's age or maybe younger, and it's like 10 or younger. when everything is fantastic and new. Um, Everything you see on TV is still real. You just have this sense of wonder of just like, oh yeah, that'd be awesome to really do. I would love to do this. I would love to do that. And you don't. It's before you have those self-imposed limitations. As you come of age and realize that's not how things work.
A realization that everyone has to hit at some point, unfortunately. But that being the case, we'll kind of jump into what, as a community, the TTRPG people always think is the better days, and it's always the joke that it's the edition or the edition before last was always better than the newest one, right? It is always the new thing is terrible, the old thing was great, and the farther away you get from the old thing, the better it gets. At this rate, we'll be playing original Dungeons and Dragons shortly, just because it'll be the best system ever. And how could we ever change it from Gary Gygax stuff? We don't need races or classes or subclasses, just wizards, elves, and orcs. That's all you need. But the better days is always generally seen as a bit of the past, right? It attaches to nostalgia pretty heavily. Not one of you mentioned things in the future, right? As the implication that things were always better how they were and not how they are, which might make a comment on our view of progression, whether that's good or bad. We're gonna jump into what's a nostalgic item for each of you. This time we'll start with Kay. Kay, what's a nostalgic item? When you look at it, you're just like, good.
I might need a second.
Okay, I'll give you all a couple seconds.
Yeah, I might need a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got one. All right, Natalia, jumping over to you.
The minute you said it, I was like, my piano. My piano was actually my grandmother's piano. And I don't remember when she had it, probably before I was born. When I was 7 years old, I started playing it and took lessons. When I moved away from home for college, and then I came back very shortly, and then I moved away forever and ever at 24 years of age. My grandmother was, when she passed away, she left her piano for me. So I had it shipped to my new location in my mid-20s. So I hadn't seen the piano in like almost 10 years. And when I opened it up and started playing it, the smell of the wood and the sound of it brought back like everything you could possibly imagine of me playing it when I was a kid. So my most nostalgic piece is that piano. I still have it. It's moved with me several times. I've had it refurbished. It's absolutely gorgeous, and they don't make those anymore. So that's mine.
That's a fantastic piece of history to hold on to. So enjoy that. Pass it on to your kids and grandkids if you got them.
Yeah.
All right. Chuck, Kay, either one of you got ideas yet?
You can go.
Yeah, mine's.
All right,
yeah, mine's a little different. Because there was an event that I went through in early high school that pretty much caused a lot of stuff that I grew up with to be gone. So I no longer have, from like the age 15 and before that I had as a kid, are gone. Never to have again. And a lot of the same stuff with some family items. However, as an adult with adult money, I have toys now. So I have these things that are, very reminiscent of my childhood, of what I enjoyed growing up with. Things I probably couldn't get at the time because, finances, parents being like, hey, you can't get that. That's too much. Don't do that. I'm like, all right, I'll suffer. But it's these kind of things that really just kind of make me feel good again.
Nice. I 100% feel that. It's ironic you pull out the Power Ranger one because that's something recently that I've done with my kids. We started rewatching all the Power Ranger shows. And that is a very nostalgic thing to go through. I think on a personal level, movies and media of that sort is where my nostalgia sits heavily. Kay, did you think about something?
Yeah, I thought of a couple things, but they're not necessarily objects.
Okay.
And actually, you just mentioning movies, I feel like that's a big thing for me is media, and there's certain movies that just I watch over and over again from childhood, or the first time you see something, you just think about that. The smell of roses is really big for me. My grandmother growing up when I was like a toddler and younger, she had all these roses, like a whole rose garden. And so the smell of it literally takes me back to being like almost an infant. So there's some nostalgia there. And then also her carrot cake recipe
Nice.
that I do not have currently, but yeah, we I always would have carrot cake on my birthday growing up, and so just that it's more like a food thing for me. I don't have a lot of objects from when I was young, and I wasn't ever. We didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't have any of like the hip, cool toys or gadgets or things that made me go, "Oh, remember when you had, that thing?" Yeah, for me, it's a little different. It's more things that spur memories rather than like the specific item itself.
Yeah, Kay, that's a good point because you mentioned movies. One movie for me that always brings me back to a moment in my time when I was a kid was Jurassic Park.
Oh,
I love
oh
Jurassic
my
Park, but I have a very specific memory with this. Every time I watch the movie from the very beginning, I always remember I was sitting in my grandma's living room, and we had a VHS tape because she had recorded it as a special, like, it was on TV, so there's still commercial breaks on the VCR tape. But she never, whenever she popped it in, I guess, and hit record, she didn't get like the first 5-10 minutes of Muldoon, loading up the raptor into the cage and the guy getting caught and everything like that. I had no idea for the longest time that scene was there forever because that was all I knew
God.
was the big scene was was pretty much the start of the movie for
Oh
me.
my gosh.
Yeah, I'm
I know, it was
100%
great. It was
in the exact same case. I don't know if I don't think they showed that on TV because as a kid I never remembered that first bit. Right? It was
You're like, what
never
movie
there.
is this?
I rewatched it.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I
No,
rewatched it.
no, I know it, like watching it and not knowing that part.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's all I meant.
Yeah,
No, I knew you meant
Just
Jurassic
sorry.
Park.
Oh, God, no.
I rewatched
Sorry.
it as an adult years ago. On bought it on the Xbox or something silly and was watching. I was like, what the heck is this scene? This makes so much sense that it's here, but why? What have I been missing all these years? So I think we might have had a very similar experience there. That's super funny.
There's something about that theme song for sure that always makes me get a little teary. I get emotional about it. And actually my parents saw Jurassic Park in theaters the day on my birth, like my due date, but I wasn't born for another week.
Nice.
But so for some reason I feel very attached to that movie as well, but that could be why kept me in the womb for 7 days longer.
your mom's panic induced hormones kept you safe. You can thank the dinosaurs for
Yes.
that one. Okay, so pushing forward, before we keep talking about dinosaurs the entire time.
You could do that all day.
Honestly, you wouldn't complain too much. But we're going to talk about more of what you guys do with your clients and the people you work with, right? So we're going to start with Natalia. Natalia, this is kind of a twofold question, so feel free to have me repeat that in a second. But do you use nostalgia when you were working with your clients? And then the second half is how.
Do I use nostalgia when I'm working with clients? I would say yes. I have to think of a couple of examples of what that is. Because so I do accounting, right? Bookkeeping, accounting, payroll. But the main focus is the consulting piece, which is the CFO. A CFO is very forward-looking of forecasting, projections, and like where are we now and where are we headed? So it's very forward-looking. I think that we use a lot of nostalgia when talking about things such as how lucky we are right now to be able to do business the way we do. That you don't have to take 5 hours to go drive to another client's office and sit there for a meeting, that you can just take an hour and have a Zoom. And so there's positives and negatives about that, right? So like you don't have the human interaction as tightly as you would if you were to go meet with them, but it also saves a tremendous amount of time. So we talk about that. We do talk about a lot about mindset, right? Like how do you grow as a leader? So you're talking about like what are your stories in your head that you have maybe your childhood stories, maybe the way you were raised, maybe things that you thought about yourself, and then you realize a lot more about yourself as you're a business owner. So those are the kind of some of the things that I'm thinking about for nostalgia, but I don't know if I really use nostalgia the way you're talking about. Maybe I'll think about that a little bit more too.
Okay, we'll kind of come back to it now that you've kind of preferenced it. I'm jumping over to Beaker. Beaker, what you got?
Man, I don't think we use nostalgia at all. Unless we're talking about like, oh, remember how badly this failed. Because we try and come up with, at least in my job, my day job, we look at things as they are now and how they're corroding and how they're put together and try and come up with some new ways to protect it for the future use. So maybe we use nostalgia as like, oh, well, remember how bad it was on this ship. We don't want to do that again. Or remember how this worked out over here. Maybe it'll work on this particular circumstance. But I know in my field, nostalgia is a little tricky because everyone is so resistant to change in procedures. They're saying it's that whole, back in my day kind of feel. When I was doing it this way, I've always done it this way. I don't want to change it. Or if a process has been new for a while, they say, well, way before we did it this way, and it was so much better. That kind of thing. But it's not as prevalent in corrosion as you might imagine.
Interesting. Okay. You don't look fondly back on any kind of paints that suddenly are less toxic or more toxic, or something. So
all the paints that. Well, they're going to look back and say, lead paint, it was great, but it was really bad.
It looks so pretty.
Just don't lick it.
Right. Don't lick it. Don't stand next to it for long amounts of time. You'll be all right. Okay, what about you? Jumping into what you do, what you plan to do. Will nostalgia be a factor? And how will you plan to use it with your clients if you do?
I think so. Yeah. So coming from like business strategy, working with mostly small business owners, and just me as a person too, like personal development's been like a really big part of my work. And I do think a big part of personal development is also recognizing like where you've come from. And I think we celebrating those wins sometimes, and progress, and then also tapping into like who we used to be before those self-imposed limitations, as Beaker was saying, when you're young, and the kind of identifying maybe like masks that we put on or things that we censor ourselves, how we censor ourselves from our like more most, I don't know, authentic or most you can be, and then also with still the work I'm leaning into as well is also thinking about who you're becoming, and almost creating nostalgia towards or like some sort of connection to future self, or the direction that you want to head and the next level version. And I do feel like that tapping into that does form some sort of feeling of nostalgia, but it just hasn't happened yet. Or it's connecting to different parts of you that you haven't really fully accessed yet. So I do feel like it plays in, but maybe not super directly, but I feel like we can have fun with it. I think it could be a great tool.
Okay, that totally makes sense to me. On the TTRPG front, we get to talk about nostalgia pretty heavily, right? When you're playing games, sometimes even the systems. Like Beaker's game that's coming up is the One Ring, is a Lord of the Rings based TTRPG, right? And that's just a whole bunch of nostalgia in itself for basically everyone in our generation and the last 3 generations, because Tolkien's just infectious with the nerds. But it's also a great source for inspiration, right? You watch an old TV show as a kid that no one else remembers. Oh, look, you got a whole new storyline that's going to be new for a whole group of people, right?
Yeah.
Great ways of introducing stories is taking a classic one. We'll say Star Wars and introducing it in a different way, right? And having it be the same story without people realizing. Change a couple names, move things around, easy peasy. You're using something that love, and cherish, and turning it into something new and exciting for a different group of people. Now, mind you, good luck finding a group of people that doesn't know about Star Wars, but whatever. Uh,
No,
but oh, go ahead.
the TTRPG part is very nostalgic inducing. To the same point, the One Ring. Yes, you're right. That's got its own niche audience, but you've also got the Power Ranger setting, the GI Joe, the Transformers. All those settings are just like such a trap for people our age.
Got to play with all the toys. You know what I mean? Get to live out those five. I don't even want to use the word childish because that's not even the right way to describe it, right? It was just like stuff that we got to do as children or things we got to see. And finally, we get to participate in those fantastic things that we got to grow up with, right? It's a wonderful place to explore those things, right? To practice your imagination, even as an adult, right? It's lots of fun. And luckily for us and where we're at now, it's not so heavily frowned upon, right? It's just another form of entertainment. There is less of the satanic panic that they had, when D&D originally got popular. We're past that by far. My favorite answer when I hear that these days, right? People bring that up is like, I'm going to steal it from the Doom creator, right? We're over here killing demons. How much more anti-demon can it be? You know what I mean? That always made me laugh. But yeah, so I mean that's kind of where it falls in on the TTRPG. Now, to kind of nostalgia is generally minced as a positive reaction to something, right? But it can also be like a warning, right? You can get a nostalgic feeling, and it gives you the opposite effect, right? Where it's like a pit of fear. There's a word for it, and I'm going to look it up really quick. Should have done this earlier, and I apologize. If I could spell the word nostalgia, that'd be great. Nope, never mind. It's literally just nostalgia, just negative is the modifier, or
Anti-nostalgia.
nostalgic depression. That is the key word that I found. So I mean, looking back, there are things that we can look at in our own lives that are negative, right? When we see those things. Now we've heard a fun positive thing. Can we get a fun negative thing? If you guys feel like sharing, I'm happy to skip it if you need to. Was there anything in your life that you just look at and immediately go, nah, not for me? My big one, I mean, I'll go first because this is one I like to talk about, is there's a construction project around the house. Nope, I don't want to do it. I ain't doing it unless I have to. And that's just one of those things where it's like, building things is not a positive experience. For the exception of playing with the kiddos and whatnot, because I love doing that nowadays. But yeah, house projects, nah.
So the one I that comes to the forefront of my mind is, when I'm not in the free time that I do have, I practice martial arts, and there's a student in there, and she's going through a tough time, various reasons, whatever, not worth getting into. But some of the issues that she's dealt with are very reminiscent of stuff that I've dealt with, and my wife have dealt with in the past, and it brings up these bad feelings, negative feelings of like, oh man, I remember when I was that age dealing with something like that. And it makes us, instead of want to recoil, reach out that helping hand that we didn't have at her age. So yes, it's a negative feeling because of how it can affect an individual. But because we've been there and been in those situations and been in those shoes or similar shoes, it makes us want to help them out and say, hey, look, you've got someone in your corner.
Which can 100% change somebody's life. When you look back at it on your own thing, if someone would have been there for you in those negative situations, how much better would it have been?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good one. I like that. Okay, Natalia, you guys got anything you're up for sharing? It's not a mandatory thing, promise.
I actually, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Beaker said.
Yeah.
Because my daughter's 22. So she's dating, and it's giving me all the memories back of when I was dating. And I'm like trying so hard to just listen and not tell her like, don't do this and don't do that. It's very hard because like you kind of know as an adult, you're like, don't do this because this might happen, but they have to also learn and make those mistakes themselves. And so like even if I tell her don't do something, like she just like she'll go out with someone and I'm like, he does not treat you well. Like, what are you thinking? And it just makes it worse. She wants to hang out with him more. So that's been like the hardest part is that I kind of can see things that are gonna happen because I've been there, and I remember dating, and I remember dating a lot of people that weren't a good fit for me, and now she's like dating a lot of people that aren't a good fit for her, and I'm trying really hard to not be like, don't do this. Like she has to kind of learn for herself, and then come to me if she needs me. But that's what it was kind of reminding me of.
Well, that's always a fun line we get to tote as parents, right? Is making
Yeah.
sure that kids are still safe but are learning. My oldest is 7, so there's a lot of you're gonna have to suffer because you're making dumb decisions and you think you're smarter than you are. But do what you need to learn. Um, but I think all that is powerful in its own right, to say the least, right? Sorry, Kate, did you shared one, right?
No, I
Okay,
didn't.
I missed it.
And
Good.
no, it's all good. I am unfortunately not a parent yet, so mine's gonna be very different from all of your guys's. But um, for me, I think technical theater is kind of my bittersweet sore spot, but also not all bad um, thing for me. I did technical theater, like stage management, backstage stuff, deck crew, like all the positions that you could have, not on stage. And I fell into that track because I was good at it. And, I've got a lot of great memories from it. It taught me so much. It helped get me where I'm at in my career now. But I will remember that I fell into that because I didn't have enough confidence to be on stage and to be seen. And so it is kind of like a bittersweet thing that it's like, oh, it was because I was denying myself what I really wanted, or I didn't really go for the thing I didn't keep trying at the thing I really wanted to actually do. But now obviously I'm being seen and doing different things. So I'm stepping into the spotlight in a different way in my life and my business. But I don't think I'll ever go back and do technical theater again. At least not stage management. I'm fine like helping out. I'd rather be lower on the totem pole than stuck in the booth personally. Um, but yeah, so I think that's my nostalgia that doesn't hit as happy as it maybe could, but it's not all bad either.
Right. And sometimes we get that bittersweet feeling, right? It doesn't always have to drive you into the corner, into the ground. It's just one of those
No.
that doesn't feel great when I think about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. So with all that being thought, right, and how we've kind of talked about our conversation to this point, is there any way that you think you could use nostalgia more in your business than you do currently, right? Most of you said you don't really plan to use it. Beaker, this might be more appropriate to ask more on the TTRPG side of things, or maybe the Gunplus side of things, than the corrosion expert bit. But either way, whatever answer you got for it. So we'll start with you.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely tapping into the nostalgia for the TTRPGs we've already touched on the One Ring, we've already touched on Power Rangers. Like those are both games that we're actively involved in. And they spark different memories for different people because people were either introduced to Lord of the Rings through the Lord of the Rings movies, or they read The Hobbit when they were children, or hell, they might even remember the old animated movies from like the 70s. And Leonard Nimoy singing the Bilbo Baggins. I mean, and it just triggers all these different things. So we're definitely leaning into that. And it seems like the TTRPG community is also tapping into that in a different way, because all these different publishing companies are growing up and like, oh, well, I want to play this, and here's some like rules out there, and I want to tweak them. Other people are definitely going to want to do this. And then, of course, when it comes to the Gunpla, that's just nostalgic all the way around as well. You've got nerds that are our age that grew up watching Gundam Wing, and then you've got older people who remember watching the original Gundam series and growing up with and watching how the Gunpla market has evolved over the decades, because it started out with like these really basic pieces to put together, and now they're so intricate and there's so many gimmicks, which are great and I love it. But there's just a little switch in there, because it not only I hate dragging this on, but it can lead to not only doing Gunpla, but there's also this whole other aspect of RC cars, model train building, building model airplanes, building model ships from like, previous wars. That's a whole other niche market that is just so out there, and it's so prevalent that you can just kind of tap into people of all ages.
Right. You're never too old or too young to start a hobby. Kind of like Natalia started. It's never too late to start a business. You can also spend your time doing the fun stuff too, which, luckily for I think most of us, our businesses are fun for us. So yay us. Kay, how about you? What is, after kind of talking about this a little bit, how is do you feel like there's a way that you'll be able to bring it more into what you're planning to do?
Yeah, I think so. I think more in the terms of like integration of like one remembering thing like the positive, but maybe some of the negative too, and just integrating that more into like transmuting it into something more usable now. Whether that's, picking up a hobby that, or that's inspired by something from your childhood, or just having more play. I think just more that like inner child connection, I think is like, I think we just need more play more than ever. And so like this community is such a fantastic way to do that, obviously. And I think you guys are very tapped into that. But I think a lot of times people don't give themselves permission to maybe do the silly thing, whether or not it's silly or not for real. But I think just more integration stuff, and the role that I'm more transitioning into is more of like a, say, like instructor teacher role, rather than strategy, right? And it won't be about business. So I think I'm really appreciating this conversation for, how it might play into the future of that. But I do think integration and just permission to have fun and to remember the things that bring us joy, and maybe maybe heal through or process through the things that don't bring us as much joy, but we come across, So yeah, I know I sound very vague, but I think that's kind of where I have to keep things for now.
That's good. Hey, look, that's the right headspace to be at, I think, with what you're approaching with. Jumping over to Natalia. Now, Natalia, you've heard us ramble for a bit now. Where do you now that you've heard kind of what we're talking about and you've had a minute to kind of think about it? Is there any ways that you might want to try to adjust how you're using nostalgia with what you're doing currently?
I think so, yeah, because I actually had a really interesting experience. Part of being a business owner and an entrepreneur, and I work with business owners, is understanding becoming a leader. And the only way that you can really grow and become a leader is understanding your past. And like we were talking about those stories and things that happened in your past that you still have going on in your head. And I had an interesting experience. I took one of those personality tests not too long ago. It's a little bit different than like Myers-Briggs, but it came back that I'm a daredevil. And the reason why that was so weird for me is because I grew up very sheltered. I had parents that were very controlling. They were very nice and they were great parents, but they were also very controlling, very big personalities. And I moved away at 24 years old, and I got married. I had a marriage that didn't work out. So like basically, I felt like my whole life I was always scared of things. And I kind of just always stayed status quo. I got my college degree. I got married. I never cheated, had my kid, worked. So when I got this result back that I'm a daredevil, I was like, what is this? And they said, well, this is how you're wired. That's not, doesn't say what your character is like or your experience in life. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because after I had that test and I started looking into it, and I started thinking back of like how I moved away from home at 24 years old. Like I literally picked and moved across the country by myself. My parents were in Europe and they came home when I was gone. And how I started business at 50 years old, and how I bought, actually in the last couple of years, I bought 2 businesses. And like without knowing anything. And I'm like, well, maybe I am a daredevil. And so I've kind of really adopted that personality. And now I feel like that has springboarded me even further into who I am, and into being happier. And so I think the nostalgia piece of what I'm going to use is have folks take that personality test, see where they're at, and become a little bit more aware of where they are today because of what happened to them in their history, and how can we really not embellish, but how can we really and help you grow as a leader and as a person, and to really find what you're so good at and where your real happiness zone is. And I think that's what entrepreneurship and business ownership is about, is finding like your zone of genius and being super pumped about it. And that comes with being very aware of yourself and your past and everything that goes with it. So that's it.
I can't argue with that whatsoever. Honestly, that's a great way to look at it, and it really appropriately feeds into our my next little bit of discussion here, which is jumping into how to use nostalgia positively to push things forward, right? And that was really going to focus on how you take the good things from the past and apply them to the future, right? Because that's what nostalgia is those happy, positive memories, mostly, besides the negative ones we talked about, obviously. But taking those bits and pushing them in a positive direction. Now, Beaker made a great example in the negative category, right? Where you take those negative nostalgias and change them, right? Or do something better about them. Because, in all honesty, a lot of the situations where those pop up, you probably don't or won't have control when they pop up. But given the opportunity, it's obviously something easy that you could change, right? So, thinking on the more positive nostalgia effects, can you think about anything in your past that you will think about and bring forward to the future and try to continue on in some form or fashion? I'll give you guys a couple of seconds here and ramble. But I mean, on a personal note, we'll talking with me and TTRPG Salinas, being a person who loved to discover things. One of the things that we at Epic Sages really focus on is finding new stuff. Right? We love D&D and the classics for the TTRPG space, but we are always excited to find new stuff and try new stuff with our friends. Right? Make new friends. That's a big one for us. We are always looking for new casting actors stuff for our YouTube channel, and making sure people's schedules fit together. And if we don't, we find a new friend. Right? Not that we don't like the people that can't hang out with us, but we understand life is life. And we like to make sure that everyone gets to experience or try to have some fun with that, right? And that's our positive experience, is including as many people as possible, especially when there's situations where people can't hang out with us, right? Doors are always left open at Epic Sages in a positive manner, for the most part. Every once in a while you got to shut them pretty hard, and usually it's not on our end. Wahaha. But now that I've rambled for a couple minutes here, have you guys thought of something that you would like to personally take that is nostalgic for you and push forward?
Man, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Yeah.
It is a tough one.
I do feel like oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kay.
Okay. I do feel like this is like something I've been doing in a roundabout way already, but just like the personal development and awareness of like getting back to like the initial things that brought me so much joy, and how can I incorporate more of that into my life now and what I'm doing, and like everything from, characteristics of being extremely bold when I was younger to then transitioning into a very like, I don't know, introverted person, that then like realized that oh, wait, that doesn't feel good. That's actually not who I am. That's not what I like doing at all. I love talking. I love interacting with people. I get energy from conversations with people and being seen in a way that feels good, of course. But yeah, I think it's pulling in like, things like that from my past, but then um I think just it's like just bringing more of that, like, again, that inner child back in is like almost making it easier for me to figure out the path forward. So it's like just honestly lightening up. Like life doesn't have to be as serious as I've made it out to be when it was hard or harder. I think, like childhood and growing up and, puberty, like high school, college, easy, transitions and figuring out who you are. And oh my gosh, like I was just way too serious. So I feel like just anytime I can be aware and reflect on things that used to bring me joy or not push down things that feel like, oh, like it's pink. I like that. And like that's okay that I like it, that it's pink and it's fun or whatever it is. And just allowing that stuff back in and just to like lighten up and just have more fun like we used to when we were younger. And I think that helps me, again, picture more of like who I want to be or continue to be. And it helps that healing process, I think, too, just lightening up because you can't really lighten up if you feel like crap about everything. So it forces you to actually like get rid of some of that stuff and let some of it go. Um, and hopefully in a, healthy way, of course. But yeah, I think for me, it's just about lightening up more than anything and like letting myself have a good time like I used to. So before things got weird.
Before things got weird. Solid take on that one.
Yeah, I'll second that one, Kay. Hearing you talk about it, yeah, it's been like a weird roundabout way for me. So, I know I mentioned at first, it's a childlike wonder of, maybe I could do this, that, and the other when I was a kid. Well, now, 20 years later, 30 years later, whatever it is, I'm coming back around and realizing I can kind of do some of that. I mean, yes, there are some limits to what it is, but I can do this. I'm back in martial arts, which is something I enjoyed as a kid. And I remember what it did for me. So the kids that I work with, I want to make sure they get that same feeling. I want them to feel like that empowerment that, they can do it. They can improve themselves, whether it's through the skills or, bringing it back home and, bettering themselves mentally for whatever they may have to pursue. But also going back and spreading, again, I'm bringing this back to TTRPGs and Power Rangers, but going back and through that, and it's, these are things that I only recently kind of rediscovered in the past couple of years. And I love the joy that it brings me, and I want to pass it on to my kid. She's 10. She's not really receptive of everything at the moment. It is what it is. It's how it is. But even still, if I can reach out to the community at large and kind of share something maybe that's a little niche that is mine, but I want to share it with everyone, which is what I'm doing with the Gunpla, what we're doing with the One Ring. It's all these things to kind of make everybody, to help everybody and share that wonder and that joy again that we may have internally.
It's a great way to tap into it, for sure. Natalia, what about you?
So first I wanted to just tell Kay that I also love the color pink, so don't feel bad.
Thank you.
I just recently, so I have been like head down working like a lunatic for the last 6 years of like rebuilding. I was in poverty in 2017, 2018, and that's why I started the business to kind of get myself out of poverty. I actually started originally just to have some extra cash on the side, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing. I'm looking forward to hiring more people and the right people so that I don't work the crazy hours that I do now, because I just bought a house. It's been a while since I owned a house. I was renting for the last 5 years. And I'm super excited to do the things that I used to love to do before I started this crazy business, which is I love gardening. I love being outside. I can't wait to have chickens. I used to have chickens. So I remember my daughter, when she was really little, like hugging the chickens and like falling asleep in the hammock with the chickens. Like literally, they were like pets. And it was so super cute. So I'm excited to have chickens again. I'm excited to just like go outside and like do silly stuff and find bugs. And we used to like get like caterpillars inside, and we used to band not band but like put the stickers on for the monarch butterflies for their migration, like the scientists. Like I did all that stuff because she was really little, but honestly I enjoyed that as much as she did. And I'm really, really looking forward to kind of doing that again, even though she's not little and I don't have grandkids yet. So I just want to be a kid again outside. I want to play with the chickens and put stickers on the butterflies.
That all sounds great, to be honest. Now, speaking of chickens, everyone's got to get some chickens. Everyone needs 2 chickens, and then we won't need to buy eggs no more, and then no one can complain about egg prices ever again. But jokes aside, we are kind of jumping towards the end of this, so I'm going to jump into final thoughts and where people can find you and all that other fun stuff again. So we're going to start opposite order this time. Natalia, since you were the last one to talk, you get to start on this. Wahaha. After our whole conversation here, what are your kind of last minute thoughts about quote unquote the better days? And how you use nostalgia or will use nostalgia, and how nostalgia now relates to you?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a combination of like there's ebbs and flows throughout life, right? Of times where you have to like really head down and work really hard, or you have more time for play, or you have time for creativity, or you have time, or there's time for loss. Like there's been ebbs and flows. There's been health scares, health issues. Like I feel like I've gone through a lot. I've been through a divorce. I've had a stroke, like a lot, right? So it ebbs and flows. I think that using nostalgia of like using the really good parts of what really made me happy, and keep incorporating that, and don't forget that piece, because we tend to when things aren't going our way, we tend to forget the happiness and the things, and we feel like we don't have time for it. But you have to make time for the things that make you happy and make you healthy, because you can actually just continue on better. So I think that's the biggest thing is just I love what I do tremendously. I'm completely addicted to being a business owner and entrepreneur, and I just feel like I need to though incorporate more things, because if I were to die tomorrow, would I regret my life? No, but would I regret that I didn't do a couple of years? Probably yes. So like just incorporate more.
Okay, fantastic. I like that. Okay, jumping over to you. Final thoughts.
What was the question exactly? Just so I don't ramble.
No, you can't. Maybe that was 30 seconds ago. I don't remember none of it. But no, the question is just, what are your final thoughts now that we've discussed nostalgia and how it applied to you, how it will apply to you, and how you plan to utilize it more in the future or less in the future, or however your thoughts on it are after our little conversation here.
Yeah, after our conversation, I feel like this whole thing has been really validating, and like it's just such a great reminder of we can use nostalgia as a tool. And I have been using it in a way, but I like using the word nostalgia as like an overall umbrella, because it can look like so many different things, because we've talked about nostalgia in so many different ways. And so I think that's a really it's been a really great way to like zoom out and see it as, covering a lot of things, not just, oh, good old days of high school or whatever. And so to see that as a broader tool than I've already been using it. And then I guess just another thought that came to mind is like when we close our eyes and we imagine something like a good memory, like our brain doesn't know the difference between what's happening right now or what happened in the past. And so we're like, for me, it's like, oh, like, could I spend some more time daydreaming? Could I spend some more time reminiscing on some of the good things from the past, or, what like watching a movie for the first time, can I go back and feel that for a minute? Because our bodies will then respond chemically, like as if it's happening right now, which I think is just such a really cool thing about how our brains and bodies work. And I don't know, just kind of this conversation made me excited to, I don't know, keep playing with the idea of nostalgia, and see it as a more broad tool than what I've been seeing it as, I guess.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Chuck in the corner here.
Samesies. No. So obviously, I can't really use nostalgia in my day job. Just doesn't work. But the streaming part of it, yeah, I think we can definitely use aspects of it to kind of tap into that joy that everyone has about certain topics and certain games that enter various realms of fantasy and imagination, and just enjoying that play again. Even building the gunplay, even though it's just me, that everyone's just watching me build this thing. It still kind of taps into a sense of I remember watching this. I remember seeing that exact model that he's building on TV when I was 8 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, whatever it was when you first watched it. And the fact that you can do that and have it in your hands, it's a whole other level of just like, yeah, that was a cool thing. One thing that I think we didn't really touch on, though, is the pitfalls of nostalgia.
We did not. A whole other hour's worth of content there.
It is. It's a pitfall because you can have, rose-colored glasses on certain things, not really thinking that, oh shit, it really wasn't that great. And I personally, at least, and I don't want to start a whole nother conversation, but I try my best to like, okay, yes, this was cool when I was a kid. Is it still cool? Maybe not, but it's still interesting for that age group. So anyway, that's a whole other issue.
I was going to say, bringing nostalgic things forward is definitely its own special topic that we might have to talk about in the future. But it does bring up a good thing. With all that being said, let's get our final goodbyes, as we will say politely. One more. What do you do? Where you at? Where can people find you currently? So we'll go again, reverse order, starting with Beaker. Beaker, who are you? Where you go? All that fun stuff. Man.
You just heard me talk. You don't want to hear me gamer again. No, so okay. Again, you can find me on a very regular basis over on the Tabletop Misfits Twitch channel, where we are doing Dress to Quest. We have our tavern talks on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. No, 9 o'clock. Sorry, 9 o'clock Eastern. I have my my garage where I build my gunpla and paint my minis at 9:30 on Thursdays. We've got the One Ring coming up at the end of the month, which is really great, so keep an eye out for that. Find me on Instagram at Beaker Builds. Find me also, with some joint posts on Tabletop Misfits on Instagram as well. So yeah, and then you can see me play Power Rangers with Rook over here every other Monday night. I know he was waiting for that plug.
I was waiting for it. I was going to do it myself. You didn't let me. But Purple Ranger shenanigans aside, Kay, what about you?
Yeah, for now, I mean, I've kind of stopped doing anything outward in this transition, just so I can get it all prepped behind the scenes and then kind of not confuse anyone. Yeah, until that's all kind of all rolled out, people can, I guess, wait to hang out, but they can follow me on. I'm on for now just TikTok and YouTube under Consulting K. And it's still listed as a holistic business strategist. So that's the former title. I guess stay tuned for what I am doing and working on and what's happening. So yeah, more on that as soon as I have more to present. So yeah.
Fantastic. And it's full of good content still. For those of you that haven't checked your stuff out from our previews that we sent out earlier this week, go ahead and check it out. See what you think. Have some fun with that while it's still around. Wahaha. Natalia! Last but not least, yet again.
So I don't have a ton of content out yet, but we've been kind of a dark horse, and we actually made the Inc. regionals, and we're waiting to find out what our ranking is. And we just applied for the Inc. 5000. So we're like a dark horse in the accounting world, which kind of is exciting. But there's going to be a lot more content, blogging, all kinds of stuff to happen this year because I just hired a whole bunch of people. But you can find me on Zacharin Consulting. So that's going to be our website. I'm Natalia Zacharin on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and then our name on Instagram, our handle is Grow Your Bottom Line. So we're all over the place. We're just kind of like your dark horse, and we're going to start coming out with a lot more content this year. Super exciting, about to build a lot more brand.
Fantastic. Yeah, especially for all of our fun small business people that watch our stuff. So keep an eye out for that. Cause havoc there. Our stuff before we get out of here. 10% off at the website. This month is March, so the code is left, right, left, all caps, because we think we're funny. And that's really it. We have some events coming up. Just one this month. Unlike last month where it was every weekend, I slowed down because we're out of product and I have to order things. We'll have one in the middle of the month this month, and I think that'll be it. New content coming Wednesday. We're starting the new D&D 2024 edition, or the 5.5. Join us with our Trap Squad, shorthand for Treasure Recovery and Acquisition Party. They'll be causing havoc with younger DMing, having fun there. And then Monday, obviously, Power Rangers going to keep going strong. We're at this Monday session is session 10, which is our qualifying session. Hopefully, wahaha. And then after that, we'll keep kicking on and causing havoc with that, because that's planned to be a levels 1 to 20 on that one. So we got a while to go still. Let's see here. That's all I got on my end. It was wonderful having you guys. Stick around for After the Music as we do our After Action review. And for those of you that were watching, thank you so much. If you watched this entire thing, give us a like, a follow, wherever you see it, wherever you hear it. And with adventure in mind, have a wonderful time. Oh, wait, before I forget, guest. I have a whole bunch of random music. And since this is the podcast, you guys get to pick a number, and I tell you what song that is. And we play that song. So I need a number from all three of you. Baker,
167.
That is too high. I need 1 through 12. Sorry.
You just said a number.
I did. I hadn't finished yet. I apologize. 3. Okay, that's 1.
3.
That's 3. I
6.
got 6.
9.
9. Wonderful. That adds up to way more than 12, which means I get to do number 3 here. Ooh, skip the Power Ranger ones. Okay.
No.
I'm sorry, friend. No, okay. I just finished this one today, so enjoy this one. This is about a character coming up on the D&D group, actually. So, talk to y'all later. Bye.
Boots in the mud, blood on my blade. Steel hums low as the cowards fade. Guts spill thick in a crimson tide. The shaman wails, but the gods won't guide. Crows dive low, picking clean. Feast where my axe has been. Call me savage, call me cursed. I laugh as I cut them first. Swing the axe, crack the bone. They beg for mercy, I stand alone. Drink the mead, spill the wine. Raise a toast to war divine. Goblins don't love boo. Goblins in the mud. Orcs on foot. Orcs on fire. Pray to your gods, but they're all liars. Witches screech, wyverns die. Those with fangs and claws won't leave alive. Steel and fury, dust and rust. Tout se fondre, rien n'est juste. All will crumble, nothing's just. Kings will kneel, thrones will break. Only death makes no mistake. Met a rogue on the haunted trail, slick with charm, fast as hell. Dagger flashed, but he was late. Fed the river, sealed his fate. Drank with the night, his heart was bold. Said I was a beast, but he never grew old. Fought till dawn, side by side. Now he sleeps where dragons died. Swing the axe, crack the bone. Ghost still whisper in the stone. Raise a cup, drain it dry. The dumb lose their heads and die. Goblins don't love boo. Goblins in the mud. Orcs on fuel. Orcs on fire. Sing your prayers. The flames light. Moonlight shines, but all should fear me in the night. Laugh and kill, it's all my right. Tout se passe sous l'ombre. Je suis la fin, je won't leave my art. Je suis la fin, je suis la loi. Je suis la fin, je suis la loi.
Tu es un monstre. You are a monster. Non, je suis pire. No, I am worse. Tu n'as pas d'âme. Tous est couverte de sang.
Rolled the dice, the gods looked down. Smiled at first, then took my crown. Demons laughed, harpies jeered. Fate's a jester, luck is smeared. Angels whispered, turn away. But my hands were made to slay. No prayer left, no saint in sight. Only steel and endless fights. Goblins dans la boue. Goblins in the mud. Orcs on feu. Orcs on fire. They write of gods, but none ring true. Heroes break, kings will kneel. Their golden throne